Hey Matt, today we're going to build a router stand out of scrap wood. This is a great scrap wood project. I'm going to try to do it in under an hour. Let's see if we can do it. And for your reference, it is 9:27 a.m. right now. I've got several pieces of scrap 3/4 inch plywood left over from the workbench build, so it's Baltic birch. However, you can use regular sanded birch or you can just use MDF. It'll work just fine. We need 2 pieces that are at least 16 inches long each, so I know that I need 32 inches out of this one. And then we're going to need some smaller strips that are 2.5 inches wide. That should be pretty much it. We'll get right back to the project just a minute right after I tell you about today's sponsor, Carbide3d. This should look familiar because this is exactly what we're building, except for I went inside and decided, you know what, I think I can do this on the CNC and batch these out and possibly have them available for sale on my store as a flat pack where you can get them and glue them up yourself. It took me just a few minutes to get this thing set up, and while I was doing it, I had a couple of questions on how to actually make some cutouts and make some curves. So I went to my.carbide3d.com where they have tons of instructional videos, and I was able to figure it out really quickly. That's the great thing about Carbide, is that amazing support they have. And as you can see here, we're cutting it out on the CNC, and it's going to take less than 20 minutes because I actually overrode the speeds and went up to about 200% because I'm cutting MDF. Cuts out really quickly. And I decided to do this on 1/2 inch MDF just to see how it's going to hold up at that thickness. 1/2 inch MDF, really simple to do, cuts it out extremely quick, and whoever gets this can just glue it up, clamp it for a little bit, and then it'll be ready to rock and roll for a very long time. That's a great thing about CNCs. Once you get that file set, all you have to do is set another piece of material on there, clamp it down and push start, and it's going to batch them out just like this every single time. It's repeatable. It's just a great way to add to your business. If you want to see a full line of Shapeoko CNCs, go to Carbide3d.com, or I'll drop a link in the description so you can go check them out for yourself. On the top piece, we're going to lay out where our routers will slide in or set on the base or on the top. I'm going to come over 4.5 inches to the center, and then we're going to make that a 2-inch slot. So we'll go 1 inch out from each side. So 3.5, 5.5. Time check, 9:38. Only want that the slot to go back 6 inches. I'm gonna go ahead and mark that center because I'm gonna need to make a punch and drill. If you picked up this awesome set of Forstner bits like I recommended a few weeks ago, we're gonna drill a 2-inch hole on each one of those, and then we'll cut those out either with a bandsaw or a jigsaw, whatever you got. I'm just gonna use the bit itself to find center, and all I'm gonna do is line up the back of the bit or the edge of the bit with that back line we made, and then line up that bit on each side. This is just eyeball close. We're not making a clock here. Press down, you can see it's made a divot there where we can start or drill our hole. Now all you gotta do is just cut the line and connect the dots. Basically, you're gonna cut up to that edge. You can use a jigsaw. You could probably use your table saw to get up in there pretty close and then sand the rest out. I'm gonna use my bandsaw because it's new and I've been itching to use it. Let's do it. I did make this reindeer that you see here on the screen on the bandsaw with Miss 731. I bought these plans online that shows you how to make them, and that was the first project I wanted to give her as a gift from the bandsaw, so she got the first project. I'll drop a link to the plans where I bought them at. All right, we should have these 2 pieces, the top and the bottom, and the way this is going to work, obviously, is this is going to sit on top. That way it has a place for this bit, because if you keep a dovetail bit in a router or anything you need to keep the depth set, and you don't want to just throw this in the drawer, it's gonna be a good way to keep those stored like that. We got our top and a bottom. Now we need to make the back and the sides and the center support. This strip's 2.5 inches wide. I think that'll be more than plenty deep enough. And just for aesthetics, I think on the sides, I want my side piece to go all the way back to the back, and then the back piece to fit in between those. And to get that accurate measurement for the very back piece, You just line up 2 pieces here like this, slide your, what will be your back piece over, and then mark it. We're gonna need 1 of those, and then we're gonna need 3 of these pieces that are, well, 2 pieces that are full length, and then 1 piece that's going to be 3/4 inch less, because it'll hit the back piece and come to the front. What I like to do is line up this one edge, and then we're going to take the blade, drop it down, push this over until it makes contact. Double check that. Just barely make contact. If you push too much, it'll deflect the blade. All right, so we got the back piece that's going to run across here. We're going to flush that up, then we'll just mark it here and make the cut. It's best to go ahead and sand everything now, just to kind of knock off any rough edges that you might have, or splintering, anything like that, or pencil marks, stuff like that. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna assemble. And because I'm sanding plywood, I'm just gonna use 220 grit, because it won't be as aggressive and it won't take off that veneer. So before we attach anything, I'm dry fitting everything. I've got this end flushed up nice and flush. On this end, you can see it's just a smidgen long, and that's why we're dry fitting. We can go ahead and trim this piece just a little bit, see if we can close that in a little bit, make it look a little better. What I like to do, if you've seen some tips and tricks before from me, push that into the blade just a little bit, enough to deflect that blade over maybe a 30-second or so, and then raise the blade while holding this piece. That is so near perfect on each side, we're not even gonna mess with it anymore. I do wanna check the centerpiece. Okay, time to assemble. For the assembly, we're gonna keep this very, very simple, and we're just gonna use brad nails and glue. If you wanna get super fancy, you could dowel this together, you could domino it together, you could pocket hole it together if you wanted to. Just a little bit of glue. It really is not gonna take much at all for this. I just want this front to be flush and this front edge right there to be flush. Once I get that flush, I'm gonna put a brad nail in there. And you wanna be sure and drive your brad nails the same direction as this. If you turn it this way, there's a tendency for those things to shoot out. You shouldn't need more than a couple, 3 there. All right, flip this thing over, and we're going to center this up. So you're just gonna measure from each side. Depends on how thick your actual plywood is, but it should be about 6 15/16, give or take, maybe right at 7. We'll go with that. We made those marks on each side so we know exactly where to put it back. And then I'm gonna pop a brad nail into the back so it doesn't move on us. Again, you don't wanna drive it like this, you wanna turn it so that it's the same direction. That way we don't uh-oh. Now for the bottom. Everything should line up like it's supposed to. Time check, 10:12. I think we're gonna make it. You'll take some 220 grit and just kind of hit the edges of those. It'll knock that, just do it by hand. It'll knock the sharp edge off there so you don't accidentally cut yourself or pick up a splinter. You can do that all the way around actually. To give it a little protection, I'm gonna throw some Outlaws board butter on there. You can pick that up on our website. Done, time check, 10:25. I think, if I remember right, it was what, 9:27 when we started? So if that's the case, I'll go back and check the film. We finished in under an hour. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. An hour project, scrap wood project, check that out. And come closer. Now you have a place to store your routers, and you can keep the bed at the same height. You can put your collars and wrenches and even some extra bits down on this little shelf if you want. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want to do it because it'll throw off my timeline under an hour. take a thin strip of something, maybe unnecessary walnut or whatever, and just quarter by quarter strip, and you can put right there on the front edge, and that'll prevent anything from rolling out or getting knocked out. But one of the main problems with like a cordless drill or a router is it doesn't set without the battery. It doesn't set up and down, and it's kind of awkward. On the base, it'll set much better when especially when there's a fixed base. You want to keep it at the exact same level. This is going to work perfect for that. And you may not have realized what we just did. No, what we just did was, if you turn that upside down, same thing. Now you would want to make this deeper if you wanted to include a battery to be able to hold in there. Then you got a shelf on top. Basically it's a tool hanger, but take it and flip it over, and it's a router stand. If you like this scrap wood project, I got 10 scrap wood project ideas you can use. Click that box right there, get you the big old virtual fist bump. Also another shop project, a DIY rolling cart for your planers, jointers, things like that. Click that box right there. It's a little older, but it's still a good video. You can follow along and make your own. Also, I'll throw one here too, just in case you didn't like any one of those.